She thinks you're hurting, that you're sitting in silence, scrolling through old texts, wondering why she left. She thinks you're struggling to sleep, replaying everything, missing her, and maybe for a minute you did. But that's not what's really happening now. What's really happening? You're becoming dangerous. You're not drowning, you're building, quietly, relentlessly. You've gone dark, not because you're lost, but because you're focused. She thinks your silence means suffering, but in reality, it's the warning shot, the calm before the storm, the stillness before the rise. You're not broken, you're just done explaining, done reacting, done needing anything from someone who made the mistake of thinking you'd stay the same. You've felt the pain, now it's fuel. You've studied the loss, now it's strategy. And while she's assuming you're stuck, you're sharpening. Every representative, every dollar, every decision, you're moving with purpose. And purpose scares people who never expected you to grow without them. She thought she left you in pieces, but what she really did was wake up a version of you that no longer apologizes, no longer hesitates, and no longer needs her name attached to your story. What's coming next? She's not ready for it. She won't even recognize it. If you're done sitting in the wreckage and ready to rise with silence as your weapon, hit that like button. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment below. She has no idea what's coming. Now let's begin. Number 1, you're not posting, you're planning. She keeps checking your page, quietly, on the low, looking for clues. A sad quote, a selfie that looks too forced, a late-night song that screams, "I miss you." She's not doing it because she cares. She's doing it because she wants confirmation that she still has an effect on you, that you're stuck, that she still matters. But the screen is blank. No emotional captions, no drama, no breadcrumbs. She has no idea that the silence she's interpreting as weakness is actually the most calculated move you've ever made. Because you're not posting, you're planning. While she's waiting for signs of collapse, you're quietly creating your next level. This isn't a breakdown, it's a blueprint. Every hour she thinks you're curled up in pain, you're out sharpening your body, your finances, your mind. You've turned off the noise, turned down the distractions, and locked in on one thing, the man she never expected you to become. You're not broadcasting your glow-up. You're building it underground, where pressure makes diamonds. Because when you pop out again, you're not coming back with a desperate "look what you lost." You're showing up so transformed, she won't even feel qualified to speak to you anymore. You're not flexing, you're focusing. No thirst traps, no ego-laced revenge posts, just discipline in motion. And that discipline, that's what shakes her more than anything else, because silence backed by momentum is the most lethal energy a man can hold. You're not showing your progress. You're letting it mature in silence until it becomes undeniable. Number 2, you're not crying, you're calculating. She thinks you're somewhere out there feeling sorry for yourself, playing sad music, staring at your phone, lost in your emotions, stuck in your head. She assumes the silence means pain, that you're paralyzed by heartbreak. But what she doesn't realize is that the pain didn't freeze you, it focused you. You're not crying, you're calculating. You've taken the energy that once went into chasing her, explaining yourself, trying to hold something together, and redirected it. Now, you're operating with surgical precision. You're mapping out your moves, sharpening your edge, building a life so disciplined, so intentional, that by the time she realizes what you've become, you're already 3 steps ahead. She thought the breakup broke you, but it gave you something most men never tap into: clarity. And clarity is lethal when paired with self-control. You're no longer driven by emotion. You're driven by strategy. Every decision now is made with purpose. Every step forward is planned, not impulsive, not emotional, just cold and calculated. While she's assuming you're stuck in your feelings, you're using those same feelings as fuel, not to lash out, not to make noise, but to elevate, quietly, dangerously, and without needing her attention. You've turned heartbreak into your algorithm, and it's rewriting everything. Number 3. She mistook stillness for weakness. She saw your silence and labeled it weakness. She thought your stillness meant you were frozen in pain, stuck in the aftermath, quietly hoping she'd come back. She figured you were paralyzed, too broken to speak, too lost to move. But what she failed to realize is that your stillness wasn't a sign of surrender, it was a sign of alignment. You weren't inactive, you were calculating, you were conserving energy, cutting emotional noise, going dark on purpose. Because real power isn't loud, it's not chaotic, it's not performative, it's disciplined. And when a man becomes still by choice, that's when he's most dangerous. You weren't seeking attention, you were creating pressure, quietly, ruthlessly. She thought you disappeared because you didn't know what to do. But every move since the silence has been intentional. You removed yourself from the equation, not to be missed, but to rebuild without interruption. You understood that stillness is where strength sharpens, where direction gets clear, where chaos gets replaced by clarity. Stillness was your pivot point. It was where you stopped reacting and started preparing, and by the time she realizes that silence wasn't emotional collapse but tactical restraint, she'll also realize something else. You're not returning the same. You're coming back colder, calmer, more dangerous than she ever imagined. She mistook the silence for softness. She had no idea it was the sound of you reloading. Number 4, you're creating distance she can't cross. At first, she thought you were just taking space, cooling off, giving it a little time before circling back, because that's what you always did. She thought it was a delay, not a departure. She figured eventually you'd fold, you'd reach out, you'd give her the emotional safety of knowing you were still in orbit. But you're not taking space, you're building distance, a real unspoken psychological wall that grows higher every day. She doesn't hear from you. And this time, you're not just quiet, you're absent. She doesn't feel you watching, doesn't feel you waiting. She checks her phone and there's nothing, not even energy. You've stopped feeding the connection, completely. And it's only now, in the silence, that she realizes how much of the relationship's weight was carried by your presence, your attention, your consistency. Now that it's gone, everything feels colder, lighter in the worst way, empty. You're creating a gap she can't cross anymore. Not because you hate her, not because you're bitter, but because you've finally understood she doesn't belong where you're going. So you didn't slam the door. You just walked away so far that she can't even find it anymore. The silence became space. The space became distance. And the distance, it's now a permanent boundary. One she'll feel every time she thinks of you, every time she wonders what you're doing, and every time she realizes she no longer gets to know. Number 5, you're building without broadcasting. She's waiting for signs, a post, a story, a picture that proves you're doing better. She's expecting the classic glow-up flex, the gym mirror selfie, the new mindset caption, the passive-aggressive song lyric. Because that's what most men do after a breakup, try to show they've moved on by trying too hard to be seen. But you've gone quiet, dangerously quiet. Not because you're hiding, but because you're building. You're not chasing validation through likes or trying to prove a point online. You're in the shadows, grinding, upgrading, reinventing, while she's refreshing her feed looking for proof you're struggling or signs you're still watching her. You're locked into a process she knows nothing about, and that's what messes with her. You're not giving her a front row seat to your transformation. You're denying her access. You're doing the work in silence, where real power grows. Every day while she's posting for attention, you're stacking momentum behind the scenes. You're not broadcasting progress, you're becoming it. And the scariest part for her? When you reappear, if you even decide to, you won't be louder. You'll just be undeniable, not because you posted your growth, but because it walks in the room before you do. She expected you to glow up for her, but you're not evolving for revenge. You're evolving because the man you're becoming doesn't need her in his story. And when she finally realizes you were never gone, you were just getting ready, it'll hit harder than any caption ever could. Number 6. Her fantasy is collapsing. She had a picture in her mind, one where you stayed stuck, where you'd always want her, where you'd be the one waiting, hoping, suffering quietly in the background while she moved on. In her fantasy, you were emotionally frozen, holding space for someone who walked away. That thought gave her comfort, control. But now, that fantasy is falling apart, and fast, because she expected you to stay predictable. She thought you'd stay emotionally accessible. She assumed that even if you disappeared for a bit, your energy would still orbit her. But it doesn't. Not anymore. You didn't just pull back. You cut the cord. And that absence, that shift, it's shattering the illusion she built to keep her ego intact. She wanted you to chase, to check in, to show you still cared, even just a little. But when none of that came, when you didn't break, didn't reach, didn't explain, it forced her to face something brutal. She doesn't know who you are anymore, and that realization, it kills the fantasy completely. She thought she'd always have the option, that you'd still be around when the excitement wore off, that she could come back when she was ready, but you're not there anymore. And what's worse for her, you're not waiting, you're building, detached, evolving. The longer she watches from a distance, the more she realizes she's no longer part of the story. She's not missed, she's not needed, and she's definitely not in control. The version of you she thought would always be available no longer exists, and when a woman's fantasy dies, reality hits hard. Number 7. Your pain became precision. She thought the pain would break you, that it would slow you down, cloud your focus, pull you into emotional chaos. And maybe, for a moment, it did. Maybe it knocked the wind out of you, but it didn't stop you, it sharpened you. Because you didn't let the pain control you. You dissected it, sat with it, used it, until it turned from weight into weapon. You didn't numb it with distractions. You didn't drown it in validation. You absorbed it, understood it, and then channeled it into every rep, every dollar, every decision. What she thought would derail you became the reason you tightened up everything. Your discipline, your time, your circle. That heartbreak she assumed would destroy your focus. It became the most dangerous thing about you. Because pain is noise when left unchecked. But when mastered, it's fuel, and that's what you've done. You've turned heartbreak into high-level execution. Your mornings are sharper, your habits are tighter, your vision is crystal clear, not in spite of the pain, but because of it. She's expecting to see cracks, signs you're still hurting. But the truth is, you don't wear pain anymore, you use it. And every move you make now is calculated, controlled, stoic. There's no chaos left, just a man who's more dialed in than he's ever been. You didn't just survive the pain, you turned it into precision. And that transformation, that's what truly separates you from the version of yourself she used to know. Number 8. You're not who you were. She's still thinking about the man she left, the version of you that overgave, over-explained, and constantly tried to prove his worth. The one who let his emotions lead, the one who stayed available even when disrespected. That's who she expects to find if she ever circles back. But that man is gone, and in his place stands someone she wouldn't even recognize, because you didn't just get over her. You killed the version of you who needed her, the soft, reactive, always available version of yourself. You buried him. And what rose from that silence is a man who moves with presence, who speaks less, who chooses his energy with precision. You didn't patch the old you up. You replaced him. Your standards are different now. Your priorities, your rhythm. You walk differently, talk differently, think differently. She used to be able to predict your next move. Now, she can't even get a read on your energy. You've gone from emotional to untouchable, from reactive to strategic. You've developed an edge she never prepared for, and it rattles her. She thought she'd always know you, thought she could always reach back and find you the same. But that version of you only existed when you were still shrinking for her. Now, you've expanded into someone whose world no longer includes her. And what scares her the most isn't that you've changed, it's that she has no idea who you've become. She lost the old you, but she never had access to the new one, and now she never will. Number 9, she doesn't get to witness the win. She thought she'd get a front row seat to your comeback, that she could ghost you, move on, entertain her options, then show up when you were glowing, healed, and ready to give her another shot. She expected you to stay emotionally available, even from a distance, to keep the door cracked open. But now she's realizing the truth. She doesn't get to witness your win. You didn't build this version of yourself for her to applaud. You didn't suffer, rebuild and evolve so she could show up late and claim a part in your story. You built in silence, alone. You carried the pain on your back, turned it into progress, and never once asked her to notice. And that's what makes it powerful, because now, even if she wanted to come back, she's not invited. She might reach out, check in, drop a casual "I'm proud of you" like she never vanished. But what she'll find is a version of you she no longer qualifies for. You've created boundaries she can't cross, distance she can't undo. You didn't just grow past her, you outpaced her. She doesn't get the privilege of standing next to the man she didn't believe in. She doesn't get to benefit from your healing. Your win isn't for her to see, it's for you. And that denial, that locked door, that's what truly stings. Because now she'll have to watch you rise from the outside. Number 10. The silence was the warning. She thought your silence meant surrender, that you disappeared because you had nothing left to give. But what she didn't understand is that your silence wasn't the end. It was the beginning, the warning, the signal that something was shifting beneath the surface, that something dangerous was waking up. You weren't silent because you were weak. You were silent because you were recalibrating, realigning, preparing. You didn't need to make noise, post declarations, or explain your absence. You let her think you were hurting while you were rebuilding in the dark. And by the time she realizes what that silence actually meant, you'll already be unrecognizable. Because silence is never empty when it comes from a man who's been tested. It's full of decisions, boundaries, vision. Your silence wasn't avoidance, it was strategy. While she was watching for signs of collapse, you were plotting your return. And now that return isn't emotional, it's elevated. She thought she'd hear from you eventually, thought she'd get that text, that second chance. But the silence became permanent, not out of spite, but out of growth. Because what she thought was the pause before another chase was actually the final goodbye. She didn't know it at the time, but the moment you went silent, that was the moment everything changed. She thought you were hurting, thought you were stuck in silence, waiting for the right moment to reach back out. But she had no idea your silence was the signal, not of pain, but of power. She doesn't realize yet, but she lost you the moment you stopped explaining and started evolving. You didn't glow up to prove anything. You transformed because the man you were no longer served the life you're building. And now, She doesn't get to witness the win. She doesn't get to return. She doesn't even get to understand the man you've become. And that's what will haunt her most. If you're done playing small, done waiting, done explaining, and ready to become the storm she never saw coming, hit that like button. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment below. The silence was the beginning. Thanks for watching Stoic Blessing, where we don't react, we rise.